First of all, many thanks for inviting me to be part of this great event. I stand before you with two hats. One as a former professor of electrical engineering at IIT Delhi. And during this time, I have seen waves of technology transforming the industry. And as a former chairman of University Grants Commission, as someone who is closely associated with the reforms in the higher education, I have seen how reforms can succeed or fail depending on the implementation capacity and the institutional strengths to adopt these reforms. You all know about AI more than I can describe to you. So therefore, in the next 10 to 12 minutes, I would like to focus on how we can redesign our education system in the AI age so that our young people, whether they are rich or poor, or rural or urban, can live with AI, work with AI, and lead with AI. Let us imagine two scenarios. In one scenario, a student sitting in Nilgiri hostel, he had to submit an assignment the next morning, works late night, uses an AI tool, and generates the report and goes and submits to the teacher. And I ask the student, please summarize it briefly in your own words. And I see the student either fumbling or remaining silent. It's not because the student is not talented. It is because that is how our system forces our students, young minds, to complete the tasks rather than strengthen their intellectual powers. And now look at the other scenario. There is a village in the border of Telangana state and the Maharashtra state. And a school teacher finds that in her classroom there are kids who are speakers of Marathi. There are students whose mother tongue is Telugu. There are students who could speak Hindi, some of them little bit of English. And the teacher pulls out the AI tool and generates the study material in the respective languages of the kids. And you see, learning becomes a play. The student confidence level goes up and they enjoy learning rather than viewing it as a forced activity. So it is the same technology, two different outcomes. So therefore, my dear friends, the question is not whether AI will enter education. I think what we need to see is how can we redesign our educational system so that we don't produce just AI users, but from this educational system, we produce people who are AI builders with judgment. And why should we carefully look at this issue is because there are three spheres in which AI is bringing rapid changes: knowledge, work, and power. Today, information is available widely, but the challenge for us is how do you transform this information into knowledge which can help us in our actions and judgment. And for this to be a possibility, we must imbibe the ability to critically question, verify, explain, build, and take decisions. Only then this knowledge will help us in our judgment and in our actions. And in the workplace, rapidly we are moving all the routine activities to higher order skills. Therefore, if I had to be successful in my workplace, I must have the ability of judgment, creativity, deep domain knowledge, ethical reasoning, teamwork, and globally, power. People who control computing, models, and data today shape the markets, shape the culture. And that's the reason why we need to redesign our educational system. If you look at our own educational system, it is one of the largest in the world. We have more than 30 crore students from class 1 to PhD level. We have 4.5 crore students in higher education alone. And with our goal to increase GER to 50%, this number will go up to 8 crores to 10 crores in the coming years. Even a small policy improvement can affect positively, can impact positively millions of students across the country. And that's the reason why India is at an inflection point today. India has 4 distinct advantages. I was pleasantly surprised to see the 4 in AI4India. I can relate these 4 distinct advantages that India has as compared to any other country in the world are the following. We have talent at a scale across the country. And we have now the NEP 2020 policy direction. And we have so much of diversity in terms of languages, in terms of real life examples, case studies in our country. And more importantly, there is now a national push to build the AI capacity, including the computing and skilling aspects. It is a moment for all of us to make use of these 4 unique advantages that India has and build our future. And when I say build our future, if I ask each one of you what kind of future you would like to have in the coming years for yourself and for our country, I'm sure all of you will have some ideas in our mind. And assume for a moment that I'm able to read your thoughts in your mind and take an average of all your thoughts. The future that all of us want to have is the following. We want to have a future which is sustainable, which is secure, which is peaceful, which is healthy. And it is to create this future that all of us are working. Now, how do we do it? How can we reform our higher education to realize these goals? This is something that all of us are working on. In the academic world, NEP 2020 says that we need to provide our education which is flexible, which is multidisciplinary, which is experiential, which is curiosity driven, which is also inclusive. Now we want our students to be innovative. But innovation always starts, the beginning step for innovation is curiosity. If you are curious, you critically think, you raise questions. When you raise questions, you imagine and see the dots in your mind and connect those dots and identify patterns which others are not able to see. And that is when you say, I have a new idea. But ideas are just ideas unless you add value to it. And this process of adding value to your ideas is innovation. So therefore, our education system should ensure that our students are motivated to be curious. So in order to do this during last few years, by bringing in several reforms in higher education, we are trying to bring many shifts in higher education. And I would like to share some of those. There are many reforms that we have been introducing, and considering the time constraints, I will focus on few major shifts that we are trying to realize in higher education. The first shift that we would like to see in our higher education system, and we are constantly working with the universities, is to shift away from degrees to capabilities with evidence. Today, a degree simply means that a student has attended a university and passed the examinations. But we want this degree to be a certificate which indicate the capabilities of the students with evidence. And that is possible only when the students come out of these educational institutions not with degrees but with a portfolio of activities, especially with the degree programs being redesigned as the 4-year degree programs across the country. Our students must have a portfolio of activities as part of their education. It could be a project, it could be a prototype, it could be a design or a data set, it could be an open source contribution or an internship outcome or a community solution. For all those entrepreneurs and industry representatives who are sitting here, if somebody comes and says, in my university I have studied AI, and another one comes and says, I have designed, I have built, I have tested, I have failed twice, and I have improved the system, and here is the evidence, I know what would be your choice. And that is what we would like to do. Our students must come out of the university system with their degrees with enough experiential knowledge. The second shift that we are trying to realize in our university system is our universities have become exam factories. Instead of assessing the thinking capabilities of our students. So what we are doing, the way we do is first create awareness among the university community, and then handhold them and step by step encourage them to implement, because you cannot realize overnight changes in our educational system because it is very diverse, and there are deep rooted conservative thinking process in our education system, and in order to bring them out we need to do it step by step. So what we are doing is that the current examination process, it simply measures the student's ability to remember and ability to answer fast. But nobody can beat AI in terms of its memory and speed. So therefore we are working with the academic community in the university system to move away from this conventional examination system and adopt assessment processes which will bring out the intellectual capabilities of the students. For example, oral defense, live problem solving, critique and reasoning, experiment design, teamwork outcomes, and ethical reasoning. One challenge that we find in the current education system is that if I have 100 students in my classroom, typically when I teach a first year class, I have nearly 250 students. And if I ask them, have you used AI tool during last 24 hours, I'm sure every student will raise their hand. But if I ask them a follow-up question, have you verified what the AI tool has told you, very few hands might rise. This is the challenge that we have. The challenge, this gap, which I describe as the new illiteracy. This new illiteracy is something that we need to change among our students. Therefore, our examinations must test the students' ability to question, the ability to check sources, to detect hallucinations, and explain the decisions that they are taking based on what AI is doing. If we don't do this, our students may look very nice on paper, but in real life, they may actually struggle. Friends, often when I travel across the country and meet hundreds of teachers, there are apprehensions among the teachers. They think that the teacher's role may seriously get affected. But we know that wherever human judgment is required, wherever human empathy is required, human guidance is required, teachers are irreplaceable. But however, what teachers have to do is, instead of being content deliverers, they have to transform themselves into mentors of curiosity. They should become a designer of good problems. Of course, some of these good practices are already there in institutions such as IITs. Many of us, we spend hours to design even a mid-semester examination question paper. But when you look at the diversity of the university system, remember that nearly 94% of our 4.5 crore students, they study in the state universities, not in IITs and NITs. And that is where the transformation of teaching has to happen. So we are working with the teachers and providing training to them to change their attitude towards pedagogy. And this is where I would like to request all the industries and the entrepreneurs, please become co-travelers along with us in training our teachers. We have close to 1.5 million teachers, 15 lakh teachers in our higher education system. Please do not remain only bystanders. Join us in capacity building of our teachers across the country. One of the other shifts that we are trying to bring in our higher education system is, can we provide different personalized pathways to the students? Remember that students come from different economic and socio backgrounds. They come from, a large number of our students come from rural backgrounds. You may not know that 60% of our 65,000 colleges are in rural setup. 45% of our 1,200 universities are in rural, remote areas. So there is a lot of diversity. So can we use the technology to provide personalized pathways? And you know that NEP 2020 also says that we need to provide flexibility and multidisciplinarity. UGC has already come up with different frameworks and regulations to integrate this flexibility in the existing degree programs. Often when we think about technology, we think of our engineering graduates. Please remember, the engineering students are only 5% of the entire higher education system. 70% of our students, they do BA, BSc, BCom. What is going to be their future? Today, if we want to lead in AI technology, it is not just only the engineers. We need to bring in the required knowledge and skills to the other set of the students also. Therefore, UGC is very rigorously promoting multidisciplinarity. Today what is required is domain knowledge plus AI, physics plus AI, mathematics plus AI, social sciences plus AI. This is what we are promoting, because in the AI economy, single disciplinary specialization is not going to be good enough. One last thing, my dear friends, I would like to tell you. I know there is a lot of debate that is going on about inclusivity. Inclusivity in higher education, it comes from different directions. Financial inclusivity, social inclusivity. But there is one more inclusive aspect on which we have to focus on, that is language inclusivity. For too long, the English language has become a gatekeeper for millions of students, because they study in their mother tongue, they think in their mother tongue, and they work in their mother tongue. Therefore, Government of India, Ministry of Education and UGC, and now we have Bharatiya Bhasha Samiti, we are all working together to provide digital content in Indian languages to the students even in higher education. Of course, in school education we have already started. As you know, NEP 2020 recommends that up to standard 5 the education has to be in mother tongue, and beyond standard 5, wherever it is possible, it has to be in Indian languages. So now we are saying, why not in higher education too? For some people, for many of us who have been educated in English language, by the way, I studied in Telugu medium until 12th standard, and when I moved on to higher education, it was a real struggle. So therefore, we have to make sure that English language doesn't become a gatekeeper, and we provide inclusivity to the students by promoting Indian languages in our higher education. And this is where technology can play a very, very significant role. And I invite all of you, those who love Indian languages and who have worked with technology in promoting Indian languages, to come forward and work with us. My dear friends, as a concluding remark, let me say that by 2047, we all have a national responsibility of making the AI responsible AI and inclusive AI, so that we reach out to the last person in our country to become vehicles of economic and social transformation. And the only way to realize that is the academicians and the industry have to work together, and we must develop that co-ownership of education and employability. And thank you very much once more for giving me this opportunity.